able to join us this morning. Greu ti weld gymaint o bobl yn ymuno â ni bore yma. Felly, fi'n credu bod fi'n nabod rhan fwyaf o'r enwau a'r gwynebau sydd wedi dod lan, ond rhag ofan bod unrhyw un sydd ddim yn gyfarwydd â Cafo, fe enw yw Hazel Lloyd-Lebran, a dwi'n prif weithredwr ar Cafo. I think I recognise most of the faces and the names on screen, but for those of you who aren't familiar with Cafo, my name's Hazel Lloyd-Lebran, and I'm Chief Executive of Cafo. So again, if I can ask everybody who isn't contributing to mute, we will be recording the session just to support us with any minute taking, and there might be a few clips that might be useful to share. So we won't be asking people to turn off their cameras at the moment. We'll see how the bandwidth works. We'll keep cameras on, but if we do need to turn cameras off, then I shall let you know. Mae'n iawn i gadw'r camerau arno. Fi'n credu bod rhywun wedi gweud bod nhw'n ffindio fe'n anodd i glywed. Somebody has mentioned something about sound. I think the majority of people are fine, so it might just be an issue on Denise's side. Felly, just I amlinellu'r sesiwn, I just want to just outline this morning's session. It is also Cafo's AGM, so we will be moving briefly into a very short AGM. And then once we've done that, and I've introduced our impact report for the last financial year, we will move into the winter pressures session. We'll start off with some of the challenges that we're recognising, and then we'll move into working groups to look at what we're doing as a sector and what we could be doing as a sector in the future. Felly ni'n mynd i gychwyn gyda cyfarfod cyffredinol blynyddol Cafo, a wedyn mi newn ni symud mewn i'r sesiwn i edrych ar pwyser geia. Felly, na i nawr trosglwyddo i John Jones, sef cadeirydd Cafo. I shall first of all introduce John Jones, who's Cafo's chair, that will take us through, who will take us through the Cafo AGM business. Felly, draw I chi, John. Fi ddim yn siŵr a ydy John dal dani, neu ydy John wedi rhewi. I think John may have connection issues. So I'm not sure, Anne, as Vice Chair, whether you're able to take us through the agenda for the AGM. I will. Do you want to, if John can join us, over at that point? Yeah, that's fine, Anne. And I hope everybody can hear Anne. Anne is contacting us by telephone, so I hope that's clear. Okay. Right, introduction and apologies. So I think we've had some apologies. Yeah, and Chris will take us through the apologies. A short list of apologies, but Chris will take us through now ar ymddeiriadau.
Hello. Yes, we've had a small number of apologies. Mandy from Credi, Jeremy from the Care Society, Linda Jones from Rabbi, and Sarah Humphreys from Ceredigion County Council. That's who we've got at the moment.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Chris. Thank you, Chris. So back to you, Anne.
Thank you, and welcome to everybody who's joined us, and I hope this meeting is successful in this difficult time with all these connections. So if we'd like to move on now to present the minutes on the general meeting.
Yes, Chris has pulled together the minutes for our last annual general meeting, which was back in, was it December of last year, Chris? We didn't have any outstanding issues that we needed to check, did we, Chris? Does dim ymoliadau gyda ni. Felly mae'r cyfnodion gyda ni, a mi fyddwn ni'n rhoi trini lan ar gwefan Cafo fel record o'r cyfarfod blynyddol diwetha. So the minutes of our last meeting, we didn't have any inquiries, so we will be uploading those onto the CAFO website, and we'll be sending the links out to all our members as a record of last year's annual general meeting in, well, it was December of 2020, wasn't it? Not 2021, because we're already in January. Yeah. So yes, they will be on the website for record. So
are we able to confirm those now?
Yes, they're presented and confirmed.
Right, okay. So that's all under control. William, are you ready to present the CAFO annual accounts? William is our treasurer.
Yes, yep. Can you all hear me?
Fantastic, William. Yes, clear.
Okay then. Well, this is my treasurer's report for 2021. First of all, I'd like to thank Chrissy, the National Finance Officer, for diligently looking after CAFO's books during the year and preparing the accounts for 2020-21, and also liaising with our auditors, Messrs. Bevan and Buckland at Halford West. Now, this year, for the first time, the turnover of CAFO was over £1 million. Now, reaching this threshold necessitated by law a greater degree of accountability and audit. This, of course, increases fees paid to our auditors. The main things I want to bring to your attention is as follows. Can you put a pie chart up, please? Like the pie chart, the total income last year was £1,256,982. The top chart shows what we received the money for: co-funded, grants for distribution, service level agreements, and project funding. The bottom chart shows how we spent the income. Totaling, we spent £762,805. That was for governance, support costs, restricted services and projects, and grants distributed. We received a total of over 483,000 extra in grant funding over the previous year. And we paid out in excess of 145,000 additional grant funding over and above what was paid out the year before. Now those figures necessitated a lot of extra work for our staff, but everybody rose to the occasion and it was done. Can we have page 35, please? That's page 35 of our accounts. Under expenditure, you can see what we paid out this year compared to last year. A few items I'd like to bring to your attention. Travel costs were almost zero due to the staff working at home. It was nearly £8,000 the year before. There were no trustees' travel expenses claimed or paid out. Postage, printing, and stationery costs were halved, and some savings were made on heating and lighting costs for the office. Can we have page 36, please? Management costs were slightly up due to the increased insurance costs and the extra audit fees. There were also additional auditors' remuneration for professional services, helping to prepare our accounts with Chris. There were additional office expenditures for repairs, etc. We ended up at the end of the year with a net income of £494,177. But of course, this is not profit, it's grant monies paid to us for distribution during the last financial year to be distributed to the current financial year. I mean, if there are any questions on the accounts, please contact me or Chris for a detailed answer. Thank you.
Thank you, William, for that very clear account of what we've done with all the monies, etc. I wonder if anybody's got any immediate questions that they feel they ought to ask now.
Any immediate questions, unrhyw gwestiynau ar cyfrifon CAFO? Os na, if not, again, Anne, we'll make sure that the accounts in full are uploaded onto the CAFO website, so they can be scrutinised in your own time if accounts interest you in that way. But they will be available as a public record on our website. Thank you, Anne.
Good. Right. We're now going to have to appoint the auditors, which John was going to do, but I'll suggest that we use Bevan and Buckland again. They seem quite efficient, so I think we have been looking into other possibilities.
So yeah, so for those of you who didn't quite catch that, we are suggesting, as the CAFO board are suggesting, that we reappoint Bevan and Buckland to work with us again as our auditors. But we are always interested, aren't we, Anne and William, in reaching out to other accountants who can audit our accounts. So if any of you happen to have wonderful, fantastic auditors, then please let us know. Os bod unrhyw un o'ch chi yn gweithio gyda cwmnïau sy'n neud cyfrifon wedyn rhowch wybod I ni, then yeah, please contact.
Right, in the meantime, are we happy to appoint Bevan and Buckland for the following year?
Any objections to appointing Bevan and Buckland from CAFO members? Can't see any hands going up.
Right.
So we're okay, Anne.
Carried then. We have one trustee director who has to be reappointed this year because of the time limit. William, are you willing to stand again?
Yes, I am.
Right, can I have a nominee for William, please?
A os unrhyw un o aelodau CAFO yn fodlon cynnig William Morris I ail sefyll fel aelod o bwrdd CAFO. Any one of CAFO's members or trustees willing to propose William to be reappointed onto the CAFO board?
Yes, I'm willing to do that.
Oh, diolch Dylan, thank you Dylan. And anybody to second, unrhyw un I eilio William fel aelod o bwrdd CAFO?
No members of staff would like to second it?
I'll second it.
Oh, Denise from Red Cross. Thank you, Denise. Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Right. Well done, William. You're elected for the following year. 3 years, actually. Right, Hazel, present the CAFO impact report for 2021, please.
Thank you, Anne. And again, our impact report, our annual report, will be shared on the CAFO website following the meeting. Mi fydd yr adroddiad blynyddol yn cael ei rannu ar wefan CAFO. Felly, hoffen ni gychwyn trwy gweud diolch yn fawr iawn. I'd like to kickstart by saying a huge thank you to a very small team of staff and trustees at CAFO who very much punch above their weight. And we are always looking for new trustees, especially from the third sector, from member groups, to join us, to join the CAFO board. I ni o hyd yn edrych am aelodau newydd I ymuno â bwrdd CAFO, yn enwedig o yn aelodau ni. Felly, os bod diddordeb gyda chi, cysylltwch am sgwrs pellach. If you are interested, then please get in touch and we can have a conversation. But we are always on the lookout for new trustees to join our board. Hoffwn I ddiolch hefyd I staff CAFO. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to CAFO staff. And we work as part of Third Sector Support Wales with other county voluntary councils and WCVA across Wales, and we deliver our programme of work across 4 pillars of activity. I ni yn cynnig yn cefnogaeth yn Cafo dros 4 pillar o gweithgarwch. And much of the work that we have done during this reporting year has obviously been online. Who would have thought that we would still be online now? Rhan fwyaf o'n gwaith ni wedi bod ar-lein wrth gwrs fel pawb. But we have been able to reach more people. I don't think, Chris, we've ever had as many people at an AGM at Cafo. It's always quite difficult to attract people to an AGM. But let's hope that our next meeting, our next AGM might be in person. Gan gobeithio felly fyddwn ni yn cwrdd mewn person yn yr cyfarfod blynyddol nesaf. I won't say anything about bring a bottle, but it's always quite nice to get together over a cuppa and cake. I think we really do miss that. But there are elements of working online and reaching people and including people digitally that we will want to continue moving forward. So we're certainly interested in that hybrid approach. Ond gobeithio yn ystod y blwyddyn nesaf, allwn ni dod yn hyd dros paned ar gyfer y cyfarfod blynyddol. Felly, I fynd at y 4 pillar o gweithgarwch, just to move on to the 4 pillars of activity. The first I want to mention is volunteering. And of course, during the beginning of the pandemic, during the first wave, the response from people across Ceredigion who wanted to help, who wanted to contribute and make a difference was overwhelming. Oedd yr ymateb yn hynod o wych ar draws Ceredigion o bobl oedd am cefnogi. But unfortunately at the time, many of our services were restricted or shut down, so the opportunities for people to volunteer in Ceredigion were few and far between. But the Cafo volunteering team came together with many of you on the call today to hold digital online sessions to try and recruit individuals to fill some key areas, some key gaps that we'd identified in volunteering opportunities. Mi nath tîm Cafo gweithio gyda nifer o chi I edrych ar rhai o'r bylchau a sut allan ni fod yn denu gwirfoddolwyr ar-lein I helpu I lanw rhai o'r bylchau na. We worked with the volunteering in health team to look at volunteering opportunities around the mass vaccination centres towards the end of 2020 and successfully recruited a number of people and supported people through the process to support the process in Cardigan, now Cwm Coe, and Aberystwyth. Mi wnaethon ni gefnogi'r bwrdd iechyd I edrych ar gwirfoddoli I gefnogi'r y canolfannau oedd yn cynnig brechiadau. We were also successful in a bid that we submitted to Welsh Government to their strategic volunteering grant. We worked with some of our strategic partners in Ceredigion to draw down a little money to support some of the recruitment and retention work and to explore policy development. Mi wnaethon ni lwyddo I dynnu arian lawr o Llywodraeth Cymru I ganolbwyntio ar gwirfoddoli. And some of what we did and still want to do with that capacity links to the local response groups that we had in Ceredigion, which moves me on nicely to our second pillar, engagement and influence. An ail pillar o waith yn ymwneud â dylanwadu a ymgysylltu. Mi wnaethon ni weld yr ymateb yng Ngheredigion yn wahanol iawn I ardaloedd eraill yng Nghymru. The COVID response in Ceredigion was very, very different, actually markedly different to other areas in Wales. We didn't have very many gaps. We didn't have very many new groups that were created. Very many existing groups, town and community councils, churches, chapels, businesses, shops locally stepped up and supported their local communities. And the YFC, the Young Farmers Club in Ceredigion, were absolutely fantastic as well in supporting efforts. Mi nath grwpiau, capelli, eglwysi, cynghorau tre, cynghorau cymuned, a Clwb Ffermwyr Ifanc Ceredigion. Cynorthwyo unigolion o fewn I cymunedau I ymateb I bwysau Covid ar y cychwyn cyntaf. We have been doing a little work to explore how we can maintain some of that structure and some of people's willingness to support others in their communities moving forward. The other thing that we have been doing, supporting and engagement and influence as well, is the Disability Forum, fforwm anableddau Ceredigion, wedi bod yn gweithio gyda'r cyngor sir a rhai o'r newidiadau i'n trefi yng Ngheredigion yn ystod Covid. The Disability Forum in Ceredigion did a great deal of work in response to the safe zones that were implemented in towns across Ceredigion. And Cheska, I think it's fair to say, isn't it, that through communication with key officers in Ceredigion County Council, some things were changed in towns across Ceredigion as a result of the concerns and the points raised through the Ceredigion Disability Forum. Cafo are also partners, active partners and members of many local and regional strategic partnerships. We are represented on the regional partnership board. Because of COVID, due to COVID, we also represent Mid and West Wales on the Dyfed Powys local resilience forest structures. And we are also an active member of the Ceredigion Public Services Board. Mae tîm Cafo hefyd yn wneud â nifer o partneriaethau ar draws Ceredigion ag yn Rhanbarthol. And as part of our contribution to the Ceredigion Public Services Board, we led on the work of the Understanding Our Communities project group, which leads me on to our third pillar, good governance. Ni hefyd yn edrych ar llywodraethu da, a fel rhan o'n gwaith ni gyda bwrdd gwasanaethau cyhoeddus Ceredigion, mi wnaethon ni ffurfio panel I gefnogi adeiladu cymunedol I ail gychwyn a paratoi I ail ddechrau gweithgareddau. As part of our role on the Understanding Our Communities project group, Cafo were asked by Gold Command to lead on a community facilities panel that was set up to support and advise community facilities and those arranging and managing community activities to restart and reopen, because that was such an important part of our response to COVID. And as part of that panel, we worked very, very closely with a number of Ceredigion County Council colleagues, Dyfed Powys Police, the fire service, and initially with the public health team as well. And we, many of you would have attended the series of events that we arranged to share latest information and latest guidance that was continuously developing and continues to develop about what restrictions and regulations and guidance were in place at the time. Felly mi nath y panel trefnu nifer o digwyddiadau, fydde nifer o chi fod wedi bod yn rhan o'r digwyddiadau yna I helpu I ni gyd I ddeall y wahanol rheoliadau oedd yn datblygu yn sgil Covid. Our fourth and final pillar is around sustainable funding. Y pillar ola yn ymwneud â cyllid cynaladwy. A mae tîm Cafon ystod ar nifer o paneli grantiau ar draws Ceredigion a yn Rhanbarthol. The Cafo team sit on a number of grant panels in Ceredigion and regionally as well. And as William quite rightly pointed out, we are distributing an increasing amount of money to the third sector and to community activities. And that is certainly something that we want to continue to do throughout as we develop and in future years. Felly mae sicrhau bod y trydydd sector a grwpiau cymunedol yn derbyn cefnogaeth ariannol yn rhywbeth i ni yn bendant am parhau a cynyddu yn y dyfodol agos. So that's it in terms of our impact report. Dyna'r cyfan, dyna prif uchafbwyntiau yr adroddiad blynyddol, the key highlights from our annual report, and again, we will make sure that the documents are available on our website following this meeting. Ond eto, diolch I pawb, thank you all. Mae wir yn bleser I gweithio gyda'r trydydd sector a gyda cymunedau yn Ngheredigion. It truly is a pleasure and an honour to work with the third sector and communities in Ceredigion. Which leads us on nicely to winter pressures.
I think before we go on to that, Hazel, I'd like to say thank you to you for that report, and thank you for all the work that you and the Ceredigion, the Cavo staff have been doing through the year, and the fact that you've managed to turn things around regardless of the Cavo issue, of the COVID issues, and help the communities, etc., to get through this difficult time. So thank you all, and thank you, Hazel, for everything you've done.
Thank you, Anne. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you, Anne. Winter pressures, pwyser geia. We wanted to bring you all together at this quite critical point, really, to explore what we're currently doing and, importantly, some of the opportunities that we might be able to get involved with and we might be interested to move into. When it comes to winter pressures, I think it's quite clear, isn't it, that they're not just exclusively winter anymore. They are system pressures on our health and social care systems that seem to be an issue all year and not exclusively winter pressures anymore. Mae'r pwysau ar ein systemau iechyd a gofal cymdeithasol yn uchel trwy gydol y flwyddyn a nid yn unig yn ystod y geia rhagor. So in terms of, I was mentioning earlier about the partnership work that we're involved with at Cabo. Ar rhan y gwaith I ni'n neud ar wahanol partneriaethau yn Ceredigion ag yn Rhanbarthol. Mae nifer o'r sialansau yn eitha clir. From our work on partnerships in Ceredigion and regionally, the challenges are seem quite stark, seem quite clear. I've already mentioned the pressure on the health and social care system. Fuel and food costs are still increasing, and we held a meeting just before Christmas with Citizens Advice, colleagues from the local authority and others, just to highlight some of the support that was available. There has been a link shared to that recording, hasn't there, Kate? But we can certainly share that again because that was a really, really important session. But it's also important to make sure that we are helping people to stay active and stay connected. And I think that's increasingly important, isn't it, because of COVID and after COVID. Mae'n bwysig ofnadw bod ni'n cefnogi bobl I i cadw mewn cysylltiad a bod nhw'n cadw'n weithgar hefyd o fewn I cymunedau. Felly mae hwnna'n ochr holl bwysig. We also need to be considering that preventative angle and keeping people active and keeping people connected. I don't know whether anybody else has any pressures, winter pressures, above and beyond those that they would like to share. Ddim yn siŵr a oes unrhyw pwysau arall chi'n gallu meddwl amdano dylen ni fod yn ystyried, dylen ni fod yn ymwybodol o. Cyn I ni symud mewn I weithio mewn grwpiau chydig yn llai. We will be moving into work in workshops, smaller workshops. So I'm not sure whether there is anything else that we need to be considering. I can see you, Catherine, and I know Ciara's gyfalwyr, pwysau ofnadw ar yn gyfalwyr, huge pressures on our carers at the moment. And yes, Helen, that's quite true as well. Clothing, especially winter clothing for children is a particular issue as well. Unrhyw beth o unrhyw un arall? Anybody else have anything that they want to raise?
One thing, Hazel, I think is very important is pressure on people regarding heating.
Yeah, food and fuel.
That are going up. And again, you've mentioned clothing, maybe teaching people that you can keep warm by wearing extra or different types of clothing and moving around a bit. Yeah, yes, yeah, the food and fuel angle is definitely an issue, isn't it? Because again, it's not good news, is it, about the prospect of our fuel bills, our energy bills actually increasing rather than decreasing anytime soon. And of course, living in such a rural area as well, our heating options aren't as great, and travel costs are considerable as well. Caroline, you wanted to come in.
Do say that word travel,
yeah,
and it's like a red dragon.
Caroline appears.
Green Dragon bus is operating as normal in the Cardigan, Aberporth, Llangoedmor, Lechryd, Beulah, all those sorts of areas. We're also taking a lot of people to vaccination appointments at Cwmcoed, wherever they might, well, you know, as long as they live in sort of South Ceredigion. Rod at Dolentyve is passing a lot of people on to us, and these journeys are actually free. And I was astonished and appalled yesterday to learn that a lot of people who haven't got the most, you know, the great incomes, who has, getting taxis to go from Cardigan to Cwmcoed, 50 quid a shot. And that's without waiting, having to wait for their vaccinations, which is,
of course.
Yeah, absolutely atrocious. Also, the health service don't actually help themselves a lot of the time, because we've got, I know it's their systems, we've got passengers that we've been taking. There's one lady that we've taken 3 times, third time lucky for her vaccination, because each time she got an invite in the post inviting her along for her booster, but she couldn't have that booster that they had got there because of her medical conditions. So she had to, luckily we took her backwards and forwards each time, you know, and it hasn't cost her a penny, because we've had the funding come through to do it. We've also got funding to take people on health journeys, so doctors, hospitals, doesn't matter what hospital. I mean, this morning we've had one lady we've taken down to Glangwilly for 7:15 so she can get the hospital transport to Bristol, which is quite astonishing.
And I think, you know, in terms of the pressure on health and social care, we know as COVID continues, the backlog for support and that elective surgery, actually that timescale continues, and people may need to travel even further.
Absolutely.
To get the
treatment that they need,
the support that they need. So that could be an increasing issue, Caroline.
Absolutely. So if anybody knows of anybody, please get them to give us a ring on our 0123. I'll put it in the chat box, our phone number, and we can see if we can help them. Okay. but
Thank you, Caroline.
don't be frightened of not pass it on. And dial-a-ride people, if they've got a bus pass, we can get them into town for nothing.
And Caroline,
No
thank
brainer.
you for reminding me. We also sit on the Hywel Dda Vaccine Equity Group. So we've been discussing some of the issues and some of the approaches that need to be taken when it comes to vaccine rollout.
I can have a chat with you
and
about
that's
that.
where and that's where the opportunity to look at community transport to take people to the mass vaccination centres came from initially. And we've also been working with the Hywel Dda Health Board vaccination team to look at the possibility of where their mobile units should be going, and also where they could be using community centres to roll out and to deliver closer to people in their communities. So that's been quite an important piece of work for us recently as well.
Thank you.
So thank you, Caroline. Really
you're welcome.
that. In our workshops, we'll have a little bit more space, a little bit more time to discuss what we offer as organisations and make some of those links with others. Catherine, you mentioned in the chat about carers. Again, our social care service, our domiciliary care capacity is at an all-time low. The pressure on families to support individuals to get them out of hospital is huge, is immense at the moment, and that could be long-term. That could be long-term support. So I'm sure the number of carers that are coming forward and being identified are increasing significantly, Catherine. Because I know you've seen huge increases, haven't you, in the number of carers registered over the past year or two.
That's absolutely correct. We've seen, I think it was from the start of the pandemic, so in 2020, it was something like a 40% increase coming forward to access more information and advice, and then that's continued into 2021. So yeah, we are seeing big increases, and we're seeing much more increases in the complexity of the caring as well, further impacted by the pandemic and the circumstances you've outlined. So it's not just increasing in number, but it's the complexity. So more barriers carers are facing, which require more partners, more resource essentially, and more of us around the table to try and overcome those.
Kate is going to do work her magic and move us into 3 workshops, isn't it, Kate? Mae Kate yn mynd I symud ni mewn I 3 wahanol tîm I edrych ar hwn ymhellach. There will be one team with Teleri, one group with Teleri. If anybody wants to discuss through the medium of Welsh, then please join Teleri. Kate, what is the best way of us, if anybody wants to contribute through the medium of Welsh, os bych chi eisiau cyfrannu yn y Gymraeg, felly aroswch yn yr ystafell hyn. You stay or come back to the main room, isn't it? That's the way, I remember now. Felly aroswch fan hyn, neu dewch nôl i'r ystafell yma. So felly dylech chi nawr fod wedi cael gwahoddiad I symud mewn I ystafell I drafod ymhellach. You will have had an invitation to move into a different room. Os bych chi eisiau trafod yn y Gymraeg, aroswch fan hyn, neu symudwch nôl I fan hyn. The other 2 groups are the same as ours. Fantastic, rich conversation, trafodaeth difyr ofnadw, felly newn ni symud mlaen i'r bwyd yn ôl. We shall move on to the feedback. Teleri, pwy o grŵp ti sy'n bwyd yn ôl? Who's feeding back from your group?
Lleuci.
Lleuci. Over to you, Lleuci. Stage is yours. Oh, dyw e ddim yn cychwyn da, Lleuci. You're on mute.
We were discussing in Welsh, so I'll have to translate.
That's no excuse for keeping your mute button on.
The 3 blaenoriaeth, beth yw blaenoriaeth yn Saesneg?
priorities. Priorities?
Priority, yeah. The 3 priorities that we saw we need to look at as a community here in the Llandyssil area, well, but to learn from that in Ceredigion, is looking to raise awareness about the safe, non-judgmental places where people can go to ask for help, because in rural communities, you can't just pop into citizens' advice or pop into Carver office. So it's more difficult in villages to know where to turn for help. So just to have that awareness, and even maybe badge system of, you can, like the We Speak Welsh badge system, you can drop in here and just get some advice. And the second priority was to find a way to embed awareness, natural awareness of well-being and mental health issues into the running of everything in the community, and even into businesses and so forth. So, I know we can Llandyssil, we look into do it, so just one person at a time, one business at a time, ticking off and trying to train people just with a minimum amount of awareness and know where to signpost people. And then the third one, how to find the people, because with more, like I know with Calon Tyssil, Llandyssil, there's doctor referrals and so forth, but with plethu and practice and all the well-being work, unless you're very sefydlu, established as a charity or something, there's lots of work, good work going on that people would know to refer people to, or not sure if you, so it's just how to find those people, especially older people now who are afraid to come out, just those ways to find the people who need support locally.
Diolch yn fawr iawn, Lleuci. A fi'n mynd i wneud bingo nawr. I'm going to do bingo as we go through, just to see whether that a lot of those points resonate with some of the things that we discussed in our group. So I'll move on to Cheska next. Who in your group will be feeding back?
Trish got the privilege to feed back in our group.
Trish,
so they had 3 priorities that came to the forefront. The first was to improve knowledge of what's going on in our communities, what services are there, that need for a mapping of every community, as there are gaps in some and there are a plethora of services in others. And we talked about how to maybe use current online info engine and Connect and Dewis, and but how we need to improve that knowledge that's out there, that everyone can access it quickly and easily. Yeah, and identify maybe the gap then by doing that.
Yes.
The second was we talked about food deliveries and meal deliveries, and the potential there of some joint working between communities. Northampton Park particularly came up as an example there. And also we looked at the third area, which was the need still from the community members, individuals, for face-to-face befriending, in-person befriending, and the challenge of that with regards to potentially funders not funding such projects and making it sustainable, and how maybe there's examples in Barth that Helen gave of how they worked around that, examples of afternoon tea impediment challenges, and how maybe we could be working together as a third sector on looking how we can address this, especially in light of maybe lots of people giving their time during COVID to do befriending. We're doing a time on furlough and tapping into that, maybe looking at different structures that will be sustainable.
Diolch Trish, thank you very much. And Kyra, I think we've got a full house. Kyra fydd yn adrodd nôl o'n grŵp ni. Do you want to feedback from our group, Kyra?
I'll swift through the ones that we've duplicated then. So the priorities were, I think differently, we haven't heard that really, is the coordination of everything. So making sure that the sustainable funding, but what central part is going to coordinate this, so everybody's on the same page. The sharing of information, who and what and when to tap into, knowing, using what we've got, but using it better. And pooling volunteers was a good suggestion, not just more volunteers, but different levels of volunteering, so formal, informal and very informal, to make sure that we are releasing staff and volunteers that are there for regulated service delivery, and then allowing other volunteers who don't want to get caught up in the red tape and are put off by the long-term commitments of you know, too many hours, but want to do that really low level and bit of volunteering on a very informal basis. Looking at taking lessons from the last 2 years in how we go forward, because we've all learned an awful lot and we need to adapt and be agile in the future in how we go forward. The food delivery, looking at mid-county gaps in particular. Mid-county seems to be more patchy, and tailoring solutions for small communities, recognising the assets in each community and enabling that very localised response. So not a national or even a county approach, but a village and hyper-local approach to everything.
And I think, Cara, it's quite interesting looking at the feedback from the three groups. Mae'r adrodd nôl wedi bod yn diddorol iawn. In our group as well, we talked about befriending, didn't we? And how that is an increasing gap. We said quite clearly that when we're able to go back to that face-to-face interaction, then that's really valuable. And we have several projects that do that befriending quite naturally through activities, as you were saying earlier, Llicky, fel nes ti weid, sicrhau bod yn rhan o popeth I ni'n neud, you know, making sure that well-being, befriending, mental health is part of everything that we do. And, you know, Dawn mentioned the Walking for Wellbeing project and how, you know, the relationships that stem from that is just, it's just wonderful. It's just fantastic. And we also talked about telephone befriending, although one-to-one will be important. We mustn't forget how much it meant to some people when we all moved to contacting people by phone. All services moved to contacting people by phone at the very beginning of the first wave of COVID. And there were very many lonely and isolated individuals within our communities that really valued that. And when we moved back to slightly more normal service provision, a lot of that was lost. We mustn't forget that, and how just a simple telephone call can make such a huge difference. So in terms of that befriending link, it's coming from, we need to be looking at that from a number of different angles. And fits into what you're saying, Llicky, about well-being and everybody's mental health. Because I think we have moved into that space, haven't we, where we need to be thinking about the mental health of all, as well as the specialist support that's increasingly needed and increasingly under pressure. So as you say, Llicky, being in a position to be able to recognise some of that in ourselves and be able to make sure that our own well-being is considered. But also knowing what specialist advice and support is out there, because that is under a great deal of pressure as well. So the links, that connectivity to what's already going on, again, is a theme that has come through all three groups. So interesting. Really valuable feedback and insight into what needs to be done and what we could do. And just a little reminder, we do have grants available. Clary, do you want to share a bit more detail about the grants that we do have at the moment?
Yeah, we've got a number of small pots of funding to give out, but our main one is the Winter Precious Fund, cranfa pwysau'r gaeaf. Mae cranfa am cefnogi gweithgareddau lleol sydd yn gallu helpu lleihau pwysau neu creu mwy o capacity, neu gweithgareddau neu ehangu gweithgareddau sydd digwydd hyn o bryd, ond mae cronfeydd eraill yn dod i ben. Ylan ni 2,000 o bydnoedd i gael, ond gallwn ni ystyried swm yn fwy os byddech chi syniadau yn eich feddwl. Cronfa revenue yn bennaf, ond gallu cefnogi prynu offer cyfalef llai o faint. The Winter Pressures Fund is to support local activities, to alleviate pressures, to create additional capacity activities, or to extend existing activity where funds are running out, up to £2,000. But if you are if you're requesting amount outside or bigger than £2,000, please come to us for discussion, and we could possibly help out as well. It's primarily for revenue funding, but you can support small items capital. Again, please come for us to chat. Y bronfeithiau bennaf ar gyfer y cronfa'r pwysau'r gaeaf yw iechyd meddwl, iechyd corfferol, tlodi tanwydd, trafnidiaeth cymunedol a diogelwch bwyd, a mae angen i gweithgareddau dod i ben cyn diwedd mis Mawrth. We are inviting applications with the following priorities: mental health, physical health, fuel poverty, community transport and food security. If activities need to be done by end of March, and I'll share a link to the application form, and Kate's already done it, thank you Kate. There's an application form available on our website, but please come to us to discuss any project ideas or anything you have. If we can help you, and there are parts of funding, maybe we can help identify other sources of funding which may be more suitable.
Diolch ti Larry. Because Kyra, we have some other funding available, haven't we, that's come through regionally for winter pressures. We also have funding to distribute, very much linked. It won't be a separate grant scheme. We'll consider it as part of the whole to tackle loneliness and isolation, which is same as winter pressures. So we'll just be adding to the pot of funding, but that's funding that Ceredigion County Council and Carfo have successfully drawn down from Welsh Government. Now, so get your applications in. Os bodach chi syniadau, danfonwch eich ceisiadau mewn. Deall yn llwyr bod e'n dal yn gyfnod anodd I ni. I fully appreciate that it's still a really difficult situation in terms of organising or thinking about activities when we still have limitations on what we can do. But we will do everything that we can to try and extend activity under the current circumstances. We don't want to waste any opportunities. So if you've got a good idea, send it through and we'll work on it. Sorry, Jessica, you wanted to come in.
Sorry,
I'm not sure you're allowed to apply, Jessica.
Oh, okay. All right, I won't. No, it was. I have to hold my hand up and say we forgot. Mandy from Credi requested we share information with the group.
Well, we did in our group.
Oh, well, I thought you might.
Oh, yeah,
it's probably just me that forgot to do that.
We forgot as well, Jessica, as well.
Oh, go on, thank you to Larry.
Ruth did. Oh,
well, I don't know if anybody would like to quickly share that again for those in our groups that didn't get that information. I haven't got it to hand. Have you, Trish or Ruth? Ruth, have you got it to hand? Could you?
Do you want to share that again for everybody?
Thank you. Any apologies?
Yeah, sorry, just gave myself off mute there. Typical. Yeah, the email that we had through from Mandy Credi, as we said at the beginning of the meeting, then she was unable to attend today last minute. But if I just read out from her email, if anybody wants any additional information, then please get in contact with us so we can pass on your details then to Mandy and she can get back in touch with you. So Mandy said that she wanted to flag their services and support that they offer for unpaid and family carers over the age of 18. They have we have small grants this winter for carers to help with their well-being, financial hardship, and to help them to get a break. The service is person-centred and can work with carers and their families to try and help them think about and put in place plans to help them manage challenges they may be facing, maintaining a manageable caring role. So if anybody wants any additional information or to know more about that funding, just get in contact with us and we can pass you on then to Mandy from Credi.
A mae'r cysylltiad na'n bwysig yn diwedd. That contact is important, and again, that's come through from the feedback from your workshops. We always wanted to see this as a starting point in a conversation. O'n i'n gweld hwn fel man cychwyn yn y trafodaeth. we will follow up with a series of meetings to bring you all together, all interested parties together, whether you've been funded by our grant scheme or not, to share what you're doing, share some of the gaps, share some of the opportunities. Because as well as our grant schemes, we are also involved regionally, and will hopefully, guidance has only just been released, so we're waiting to start the work, but we will be working with partners across West Wales to submit business cases to Welsh Government to deliver 6 programmes of work to look at a regional investment fund for health and social care. So we will be involved in that process, and I'm sure that will be frustrating and will have to happen overnight, but we will be there and we will be around the table. So anything that we gather, anything that we pick up from these conversations, we can feed through and we can try and push for funding for. I also lead on some work that we're doing through the Ceredigion Public Services Board on tackling hardship, and we have only just recently started on that work as the PSB. We're looking at 3 different place-based projects, and we will be heading up the work in Cardigan, and we're just gathering data, gathering information at the moment, but we'll soon be looking to engage with more of you and some of the movers and shakers in Cardigan to see what we can do differently to tackle hardship together in Cardigan. So whatever we learn through that project, we can then share across the whole of Ceredigion. So it's really important that we come together in a series of meetings to inform all of that work. O'n i hefyd ys sôn am asesiad llesiant Bwrdd Gwasanaethau Cyhoeddus Ceredigion. Mentioning the PSB, I also wanted to draw your attention, if you've missed the emails, to the PSB Wellbeing Assessment. Now, the consultation on the draft assessment plan is out at the moment, closes on the 28th of January. But the plan will influence the work programme of the Ceredigion Public Services Board over a 5-year period. We're looking at 2023 by the time everything goes through the system to 2028. So the assessment itself is presented on a life stages cycle. Mae wedi cael ei gyflwyno ar fformat cylch bywyd person. But we are asked to identify 3 areas that the Public Services Board should focus on over that 5-year period to improve the well-being of people in Ceredigion. So we were going to run a little workshop as part of this session, but I don't want to come up with 3 areas on behalf of the third sector. Fi ddim eisiau cyfyngu ni I 3 pwynt ar gyfer y sector gwirfoddol, ar gyfer y trydydd sector. Fi eisiau bod ni'n chwarae tactics. I want to play this tactically. I want everybody to contribute separately with 3 areas, 3 different areas, 3 areas that are important to you or you see that are important to people in Ceredigion. So we've got more bang for our buck then if we all contribute separately and influence the process, because it is a really important process, and really they are about the areas that we can all work on together. Just a little reminder, just i'ch atgoffa chi, the Ceredigion Public Services Board, partners around the table, Ceredigion County Council, the Health Board, Dyfed Powys Police, Fire Service, universities, colleges, CAFO are there, National Library, Natural Resources Wales, pwy fi didn't anghofio, who have I forgotten? There are a great many of us sat around that table, and we don't just turn up to meetings, we are an active partner in the process. And actually, in the assessment, the third sector gets its own mention, and none of the other partners do. So the contribution of the third sector is really, really valued, not just the contribution of CAFO, the contribution of the whole sector. So it's our opportunity to influence that and to identify 3 areas that we need to be focusing on as public partners, as partners in Ceredigion, to improve the well-being of our population. Felly bwysig iawn bod ni'n adrodd nôl a bod ni'n ymateb i'r ymgynghoriad. Really important that we take this opportunity to feed back to this consultation. Felly mae tymor bach amser, da ni 8 o mis Ionawr. We've got a little time, closes on the 20th of January, but we will be sending out reminders. Mi fyddwn ni yn danfon nodiadau i'ch atgoffa chi. Any questions on that? Unrhyw gwestiynau fyna? Mae 'na tipyn yn digwydd. There's a lot going on. So we will be needing your support a great deal over the coming months to make sure that we influence some of the major changes that are happening, particularly the funding for health and social care. You know, we are talking about multi-million-pound funding, and our partners in health and social care are really keen to look at how they can reinvest the money that they have, you know, the core funding that they have as well. So again, a really important piece of work for us to influence, and I know Denise, you know, in terms of Red Cross and Age Cymru and Citizens Advice, Rebecca, we've been a big part of delivery so far, and we want to make more space and more room for the third sector to contribute to health and social care regionally moving forward. So felly byddwn ni mewn cysylltiad pan fi fwy o gwybodaeth gyda ni. Mae'r Cyngor Sir wedi cysylltu hefyd, Kyra, just wanted to mention, we may be drawn into early discussions with the local authority about any gaps in service provision that we might be able to fill as a third sector. And through volunteers and volunteering. We haven't started those conversations yet, but if we need your support, we will reach out to you. Felly, cyn I ni gloi'r cyfarfod, before we close the meeting, I was going to invite you, Kate, to say a little about Webuary. Just to plug what we have lined up for the next month. Beth sydd gyda ni mewn golwg ar gyfer mis Chwefror?
So we're starting a campaign. Hopefully the information will be on Connect Ceredigion at the end of next week about it. But for the whole of the month of February, every day we're offering different online opportunities with the idea that we want to support people to feel more confident online, accessing opportunities online, and then for them to see the wealth of what's out there. There's so much going on. There's so many different groups providing things. So for people to have that confidence that they can access it safely. So we've got sessions happening throughout the month, not about an hour each, but we've got web safety and things like that, but we've also got some creative stuff, and we've got some singing. There's a quiz, there's a bingo session, there's all sorts of different things. So fun stuff, as well as some of the sort of the more serious support, helpful stuff. But we also still have gaps in our calendar. So if anybody has online events that they are already doing or planning to do, then let me know and we can help promote it as part of Webuary. Or if somebody has something they would like to put on especially, that would also be really, really lovely.
Felly cyfle I chi gyd fyna, an opportunity for all of you. So contact Kate at CAFO if you have anything that you want to promote, any digital projects or digital services that you want to promote. because we will also be looking at the Connect Ceredigion platform. Some of you might be familiar with the Connect Ceredigion platform. I know we launched our environmental campaign very early on during COVID to try and encourage people to get outdoors when it was very difficult for us to interact in any other way. But we want to look at using Connect Ceredigion to help us have conversations in between meetings, to make it a more interactive relationship between us all. And again, the conversations that we've had in the workshops has just kind of re-emphasised how important that opportunity is. Felly fyddwn ni'n edrych ar cyswllt Ceredigion i'n cefnogi ni i sicrhau bod ni'n cael y cyfle i cyfathrebu rhwng cyfarfodydd a i sicrhau bod ni'n cario ymlaen gyda trafodaethau pwysig. Wanted to take this opportunity as well. Cheska will have emailed you. Byddai rhai o chi'n derbyn e-bost o Cheska ynglŷn â LFTs, about lateral flow tests and access and whether any of you are finding any challenges. We are in conversations at the moment with Welsh Government and partners across Dyfed Powys to look at whether there is a need within the third sector itself for lateral flow test access. But I know that Welsh Government are also quite interested in how we as a third sector and as community groups can actually help people in Ceredigion access lateral flow tests when they need it. So there's a great deal of interest, and I think Welsh Government are keen to look at possibly having a pilot project in Ceredigion and Pembrokeshire, but that's very early days. So if you have any ideas or are coming across any issues with access, then please let us know, because that's a big piece of work that we're undertaking at the moment. Felly rhowch wybod os bydd unrhyw blodemau neu unrhyw gyfleoedd i dosbarthu profion lateral flow, cysylltwch â ni. Was there anything else that anybody wanted to share before we close the meeting? Unrhyw beth arall oedd unrhyw am rhannu cyn I ni gloi?
I have just popped something in the chat in case people aren't aware about the lifelong learning courses. Alison unfortunately wasn't able to access the meeting today. So
really useful.
Just about modules.
Diolch Cheska, thank you Cheska. So we shall close the meeting. Mae'n ei gair cyfarfod. Diolch I chi gyd am eich amser bore yma ag am eich cyfraniadau defnyddiol a pwysig ofnadw. Thank you all for your precious time this morning. I know everybody's so busy, and for your contributions as well. Really, really valuable discussion which will inform future sessions. So cadwch mewn cysylltiad, keep in touch with us. We will be in touch with you very soon to invite you to future meetings and to involve you in future programmes of work. So ni'n edrych mlaen fel tîm yn Cafon, ni'n edrych mlaen at gweithio gyda chi eto dros y misoedd nesaf. We really do look forward to working with you over the next few months on this really important topic. Felly diolch I chi gyd. Thank you very much and take care. Cymerwch ofal.